Indiana Fever lose a close game against the Atlanta Dream, with some fans already questioning Coach Stephanie White's decision-making at the end of the game. So let's talk about it. What's up, you guys? I'm Rachel DeMita, and welcome to the Courtside Club. Just last night, the Indiana Fever lost to the Atlanta Dream 91-90 in a thriller ending. And you guys, we went live for this game. For all of you who tuned in to the live watch party, thank you so much. I have so much fun doing those, so make sure that you guys subscribe and click that little notification bell so you don't miss out on any of those live streams for the WNBA games. My next live stream that I plan to do will be this Saturday when the Indiana Fever go up against the New York Liberty. That is going to be a tough game, so make sure that you guys stay tuned for that. But I do want to break down some of the things that I noticed in this loss to the Atlanta Dream, and honestly a game that I wasn't expecting the Fever to lose, especially since the Atlanta Dream just lost to the Washington Mystics, and the Washington Mystics is such a young team. They play so many of their rookies. And let's start with some positive news. So Caitlin Clark last night went off for 27 points and 11 assists, and in her sophomore season, Clark now has the most 25-point, 10-assist games in WNBA history. She has only played in 42 games in her entire WNBA career, and she already has the record for this. Now, she was actually on track for another triple-double in this game at halftime. I believe she had like 16 points, 7 assists, and 5 rebounds, so she was on track for another triple-double. She did not get it in this game, but she also has now tied Courtney Vandersloot for the most 20-point, 10-assist games in WNBA history. And guys, if you look at this screenshot here, it's actually kind of wild. So Caitlin Clark has 10 games with 20 points and 10 assists, and she reached that milestone in only 42 games. And as you can see, Courtney Vandersloot, who holds that record, reached it in 430 games. So Caitlin Clark is on track to absolutely obliterate this record. She is only, like I said, in her second game in her second season in the WNBA. So it was another historic night for Caitlin Clark. However, this historic night was overshadowed by the loss of the game. And Caitlin Clark, throughout the entire game, she didn't look so happy. As we know, Caitlin Clark is a true competitor. She is very competitive. She does not like to lose, and you could see it on her face for most of the game. Now, for the Indiana Fever, there were 3 players who really showed up and played well this game, and everybody else seemed to struggle. That was Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, and Aliyah Boston. So if we look at it here, Kelsey Mitchell and Aliyah Boston both had 24 points apiece. Aliyah Boston had 10 rebounds and 4 assists. Now, Aliyah Boston had a heavy task of the night, and that was going up one-on-one against Britney Griner. And that is one thing that the Atlanta Dream have over the Indiana Fever, is they have size. And I talked about this before the season even started. I expect the Fever to still be contenders this season. However, they are undersized. And in order to be undersized and still win games, you have to be able to make adjustments during games, and you have to be able to make sure the pace of the game stays really quick. Now, what the Atlanta Dream did really well is they mucked up the game. They played great defense. They made the Indiana Fever slow down, and they also isolated Britney Griner and also Brianna Jones in the paint. They spread the floor and basically just let Britney Griner and Brianna Jones go one-on-one against the Indiana Fever's post defenders in Aliyah Boston and Natasha Howard. I actually think both of them did really well on the defensive side, but that is a tough task to ask somebody like Aliyah Boston, who is barely 6'5", to go up against somebody like Britney Griner, who has so much height over her and also size over her. It's essentially impossible to guard. If Aliyah Boston plays in front of Britney Griner, they can lob it over the top for an easy bucket. If Aliyah Boston plays behind Britney Griner, she has to play such good defense, and it's still so hard because once Britney Griner gets the ball over her head, it's pretty much over. And that's essentially what she did for the entire game, and the Atlanta Dream exploited that. Now, the problem that I had with the Indiana Fever is it didn't seem like they made any big defensive adjustments to contain what was happening in the paint. Now, in the first half of the game, the Atlanta Dream shot horrible from three-point range, and they actually shot so many more three-pointers as opposed to the Indiana Fever, and the Indiana Fever shot well from the three-point line, but they only got around 23s up in that game, and the Atlanta Dream shot over 33s in that game. They shot horrible. They shot less than 20% in the first half, but you can't bet on a team to shoot that bad for the entirety of the game. And when they came out in the second half, the Indiana Fever brought the game within 2 points. However, they came out in the second half, and Rhyne Howard, who is a fantastic basketball player, she went 3 for 4 from 3 in the first 2 minutes of the second half. From that, they were able to go inside out, and like I said, their bigs just absolutely dominated the Indiana Fever, and I'm going to put this loss back on the coaching staff, and I'm going to put it back on them when it comes to the defensive schemes in particular, because I don't know how you just left your players like Aliyah Boston and like Natasha Howard on an island for the entire game and let these oversized post players go to work on them. The backside help wasn't there. They weren't running any double teams, and the Atlanta Dream did a great job at exploiting that. This was another game that I thought Sophie Cunningham would have been so helpful for the Indiana Fever, because if there's one thing that Sophie Cunningham always brings when she steps on the court is energy. The team did not have energy. It felt lackluster. You could even see it in their body language and how they were playing on the court. This Indiana Fever team didn't show up to play in the way that they showed up to play the Chicago Sky. Sophie Cunningham is somebody who brings so much energy, not only on the defensive end, but on the offensive end as well. And I just felt like they needed a little spark, and they really didn't get that until the fourth quarter. Now, I have to give a shout out to Aliyah Boston. I thought she looked great. Once again, she is impressing me with every game that I see her play. And you can tell that Aliyah Boston has worked on her skills in the post. Her bag is expanding so much. Some of the moves that she was pulling out, even with a player like Britney Griner guarding her, she just 10 for 10 impressed me so much. She worked so hard on the defensive end as well. And also, Kelsey Mitchell is someone, I was calling her on the live stream. I said, Kelsey Mitchell is actually our rim runner. When Kelsey Mitchell takes off and she gets to the bucket, she is actually the best finisher at the rim on this Indiana Fever team. The fast break layups, the cuts to the basket, those kind of shots that she was putting up, I was so impressed with her, and she also just gave it everything she had on the court. Lexi Hall came out and played great defense. She played on Rhyne Howard for a little while. I also thought that she should have played on Rhyne Howard for much longer, because Rhyne Howard, you cannot let her get hot. She will get hot and she will put a team away herself. Now, some fans were pointing out that players like Natasha Howard, DeWanna Bonner, and Brianna Turner didn't play their greatest games, and I agree with you guys on that front, but the fans that are already questioning what the Indiana Fever did during the offseason, we have to slow our roll a little bit. It is only game 2, and yes, do I think the Indiana Fever as a whole is a better team than the Atlanta Dream? Yes. Should they have won this game? No. The Atlanta Dream, I was saying it during my live stream as well, the Atlanta Dream outdogged the Indiana Fever this game. They came out, even if they were missing shots, even if not everything was clicking for them, they came out with so much energy and so much fight that the Indiana Fever didn't have. And Natasha Howard, I'm also going to speak out for, because what we see on the stat sheet isn't representative of all of the other things that Natasha Howard did on the floor, and specifically on the defensive side. Natasha Howard, yes, she missed a lot of free throws last night. She missed layups that she normally doesn't last night, but she did put up a good fight on the defensive end. And like I said, with Natasha Howard and with Aliyah Boston, they had tough jobs last night with the bigs that the Atlanta Dream has. I think that the Atlanta Dream have one of the best front courts in the WNBA. And so I think some fans who are super fans of the Indiana Fever should just take a breath. It's only game 2. I would put a lot of the emphasis back on the coaching, because like I said, some of the adjustments that needed to be made during the game, I felt like they weren't made quick enough, and that could have been what cost them the game. Sorry guys, I had to restart my camera, but let's talk about the most controversial play of the night, and that was the very last play of the game, where the Indiana Fever is down only 1 point with just under 10 seconds left in the game. There is a side out, and Coach Stephanie White draws up the play, and to our surprise, Caitlin Clark was the one taking the ball out of bounds. Now for this play, Caitlin Clark is taking the ball out of bounds. I don't know what they were actually trying to accomplish with the play because it seemed like players were running into one another. And then I also heard from Coach Stephanie White after the game that the play was actually drawn up for Aliyah Boston, but they weren't able to get her the ball. Coach Stephanie White took some accountability and said that I probably should have called a timeout during that time because we weren't able to get Aliyah the ball. Nonetheless, Caitlin gets the ball to Natasha Howard. She's not able to finish it, and the Indiana Fever lose the game. But I was so surprised, and you guys can see my reaction in the live stream.
Can I say something really quick? Why was Caitlin taking the ball out of bounds? Am I missing something? She didn't even have a chance for that last shot. The best shooter and the best free throw shooter and the best shot creator on your team is taking the ball out of bounds? Who's the crazy one? Is it me?
Caitlin is your best shooter, your best shot creator, and also your best free throw shooter. So a lot of us were very confused as to why she didn't even have a shot to make the last shot in the game. And this was something that a lot of fans were calling out because this is something that we also saw last season with Coach Christy Sides. Now, a lot of people have much more faith in Coach Stephanie White than they did in Coach Christy Sides. But you can understand why we were kind of confused that she was the one taking the ball out of bounds. Yes, the Atlanta Dream are going to face guard her and double team her, and they actually did face guard her for most of the basketball game, which we saw that so much last season. But of course they're gonna try their best to not let Caitlin get the ball, but even with that, you're taking two defenders with Caitlin. That's gonna leave somebody more open than they would be with Caitlin taking the ball out of bounds. So a lot of us were so confused about that play. Again, I'm gonna chalk this up to it being game 2, and hopefully they figure it out. The crazy thing is that the Indiana Fever play the Atlanta Dream again in 2 days. So we'll just have to see the kind of adjustments that this team makes. But before that game, what they do need to do is they do need to practice their free throw shooting because they shot horribly from the free throw line and the Atlanta Dream shot so much better. Mentally, I feel like missing free throws, especially in the women's game, is a mental thing. All of them know how to shoot free throws. All of them up until that point are pretty good free throw shooters. Some of them miss free throws during clutch time, and that's just something that is so mental. So I was confused throughout the whole game why the girls didn't seem excited to play in this one, and I also think that they let the refs get to them because the refs were not good. Like they haven't been, but at this point, it's no surprise that the refs aren't going to be great. You cannot let the refs take you out of your game. But with that, the Atlanta Dream really put on a show. They did the dirty work. They out-dogged the Indiana Fever because they went to work on both ends of the court. They played great defense, and they went to their strengths, playing through Britney Griner and Brianna Jones. And then when Alicia Gray and Ryan Howard also got hot, it was pretty much over for the Indiana Fever. With that, it sounds like I'm acting like the Indiana Fever got blown out, but I do think that overall the Indiana Fever is a better team. So we will just have to see how they bounce back in this game on Thursday. Of course, you guys let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. Did you watch this game? What are your concerns about the team? What did you think about that final play? And do you guys like videos like this where I'm just breaking down the games and giving you guys my reactions? Let me know in the comments below. Of course, thumbs up this video if you enjoyed it. Click that little subscribe button because we upload new videos every single week. And with that, you guys, I'll see you next time. Ooh,